welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Minecraft with me, Lucy, and it's episode 75, which I am so excited for because we are 3/4 of the way there to 100. I can't believe it. We've come so far, and I swear these last 75 episodes have really just flown by. It's been less than 2 years and we're already so far in, but I am really excited to show you guys around today. As you might have guessed from the title, if you're new here, we're doing a little world recap. So I did a big world tour at episode 50, and now just to catch up, I'm going to cover everything I've done since episode 50, so check that one out if you haven't already. Let's get started and see what I've been doing. Now, I do have a disclaimer. I'm sorry if I don't sound the best. I've had a bit of a cold the last few weeks and it just doesn't seem to be going away voice-wise, so I've decided to just go ahead and record anyways because I am so excited to show all of this off, and I have a nice cup of tea to warm my voice up, so hopefully I don't sound too bad. And it's raining, so it's time to cozy up with some tea. Get yourselves a drink. I'm gonna wait this rain out and then I'm gonna give you a little tour. And voila! The rain is gone, and here is a nice overview of my base. In case you haven't seen it before, there is a lot of stuff here built over the last 75 episodes. I won't be covering all of it, but you get to see some highlight pieces here. And speaking of highlight pieces, I am indeed in one. If you're curious where I am, right here where I'm standing is one of my biggest projects to date, and one that was only possible to be done after episode 50 because that is when I defeated the Ender Dragon. And so I got my elytra a couple episodes after that, and I put it to good use building this whole thing. So what is this? Where am I? Well, if we free cam out a little bit and show you around, this is one of my favorite things in the series. I think it looks fairly impressive from this angle, but if you can't tell what it is, let's move out a little bit. I love my sword. It's a giant sword in the ocean, and it was an absolute challenge to build, and also a lot of terraforming work done down there. We were down under the water as well. Because it's free cam, you can kind of see clearly. Dug out this massive crater as much as I could underwater and did a little bit of texturing around the sides. It's not ideal, but I think it sort of works from afar when looking down into the water. It does feel like a crater. The idea behind this is a giant sword that fell, well, from the sky and landed in this ocean and has a bit of a shockwave effect because of that. And it's really cool. And what is it actually? Well, this thing does have a practical purpose. If I come out of free cam here and fly down underneath into the water and then through, oh nope, that would have been too easy to make it. Fly in here, we have a bunch of gunpowder. Indeed, it is actually a creeper farm inside the sword here. As you can see, there's some creepers in boats with cats. If we ignore my terrible creeper farm design, every single boat's got a creeper in it. It's really not ideal. No, it's not, but it works. It may be not the most efficient thing, but it does work, and we get some creeper here, enough to sustain the rockets I need, which is really all that I need in here. And I think the sword is best viewed from out here on the beach. Look at that. It really is an iconic landmark in my world at this point. No matter where I stand, if I have my render distance up, I can probably see a little bit of it in many points there at the base. It's just there, standing quite heroically in the distance. I really love the sword. It's one of my favorite builds ever, so I thought it was only fitting that we start with it. But yes, that's my creeper farm. And also a giant sword built all by hand with a lot of scaffolding and a lot of rockets, and it's a really cool blocks like pale oak. I think that was one of the first times I've really used pale oak, and I'm quite happy with it. So let's dive straight into the rest of the new builds, and I think we're just going to start on this path here and go in a more of a natural order rather than going by order of episode built or anything. So over here we have a little house that is just like, well, a house. I made this as like a little starter hut almost, where I can come in and grab a bunch of stuff. You know, it's got a bed, it's got an ender chest, it's got some storage and things I might need. So a very standard basic build of just a little house to put my things in. It's not my main starter home, it's not my storage room, but those things are on the other side of the island. So as a little thing to keep me going when I'm working on the side of the island. We have a little cute starter home-ish kind of place. And in this whole section, I really wanted to challenge myself and use a lot of green and red together. And I think these builds, they're so colourful, they're so fun. I'm a big fan. Now let's move on to the next door build, which actually the interior off we just finished last episode. So for you guys that have seen that, this is very recent. But this was a little home build to store things I'm getting from my sniffer farm. So it's all redstoned up automatically. Through here you can see a bunch of redstone, and above us is the sniffer farm. So let's walk over there. Yep, this is it, this round big building, and apparently some stuff I've left here as well. Let's just ignore that and clean up ourselves. In here is our little sniffer farm, fully active with some allays that do sometimes work. Enough to drop things off into the water streams over here by the note blocks, and a whole bunch of sniffers that work really hard to get us the flower seeds we need. Those seeds are then transported through the water stream all the way here to these farmer villagers, and this is not the most efficient farm, and somehow they always end up planting a lot more of these pitcher pods than torch flower seeds. Why did they both only have pitcher pods? But this is on an automatic timer system where every 3 sunrises or so it harvests the plants and it leads them back into this building, which I'm really happy with. Most of the time they are fully grown, although I do get seeds in some of the time if they aren't. So that is the sniffer farm, and if we follow the path along, it leads us to the cherry blossom square, which I really love here as a sort of entry point towards the city. Now the city's covered in the world tour, most of it at least, but this bridge and the square itself are new, and I think it creates such a cool effect as you're heading into the city. Now the land here that the bridge connects to doesn't quite have anything on it yet, but I do have big plans for this area. But I think this looks so cool, and there's a couple paths splitting off from the cherry blossom square. One of them is down here towards this little dock area, and this is a traveling flower selling boat. That's the lore behind it, at least. So if you take a look around it, as you can see, it's a boat. It was my very first time building something like this. I think a boat, maybe, I don't know, I think it is. And at least it's the only one on this world, and I absolutely love it. I tried to use different colored woods in here. There is birch, oak, spruce, dark oak, crimson, that's the word, crimson, and cherry, all in this one build. You wouldn't realize it looking at it, but this thing is colorful, and there is obviously so many flowers and stuff that it's selling. And in here, there's a little bed which we can use to sleep away this nighttime. Coming out of the boat, we have this little dock area. There's not much here, but it's cute. You can imagine that things are traveling in through this river. When they make a stop to go to the city, they can park their boats here, or anchor them, I guess. There's a correct word for this that I'm not aware of, but yeah, it's a little dock area. You can just pretend you're having a nice little sea here looking at the unfinished terrain on the other side. But I'm a big fan of this nice little, almost like world building detail in the world. Now just above the dock is the barn, which is probably the building here, maybe in the entire base, this sort of feels like it sticks out the most for me, because it is very much more modern than everything else here. Mostly because it's based off a thing in real life, right? Everyone's seen those iconic red barns, and for some reason I felt like I had to build my own one, and I think I absolutely nailed it. Like, you can look at it and you're like, yeah, that's the red barn that everybody knows. It was quite tricky. I think because pale oak was added to the game, I kind of went on a spree of using it everywhere, and I thought it'd be cool to use it for a barn. I do really like it. So let's talk about first the trees over here. The resin clumps also got added, and I really wanted to try making some fruit trees with them. So these are very tiny little custom trees. They're not the best. Actually, in hindsight, I wish I had used like fences instead of logs for these. But fruit trees do tend to be shorter, especially ones that are cultivated for us, so it's easier to pick off the fruit from them. And I think it adds a little farm image over here. The star of the show on the barn itself is definitely the texturing. I kind of struggle texturing mangroves, so most of the time I don't do it. But I wanted to give this barn a bit more of a weathered look, and so we have some netherrack, very fun, and some terracotta as well. I think that's red terracotta to texture it. And I think from afar, it does work. Because it's such a large flat area, like these walls are flat, you know, there's very little detail on them. I think the texturing was necessary, and overall I quite like it. But my favorite part of the build is definitely the roof. So I think your barns tend to normally come in two types of roofs, well, probably more than that, but the ones I would see, they sort of tend to have either a metal roof or a slate roof. This is meant to be more of a metal looking roof, so I added the prismarine to make it look like we were having some rust spots in it maybe. I don't know, just a little bit more weathered. I thought that was the best way to make this look, if it's in with the rest of the base better, was just to give it a little bit of life with the everything that's wrong with it, basically. Make it less perfect to make it fit in better with every other build, and I quite like it. So if we head inside here, we have all our cows, which I really need to replace with the Highland cows they've added because they're so cute. And inside, you know, we just have a lot of wheat. A lot of wheat and a bed and stuff, just in case you don't need to sleep with the cows. This whole section of the base, I put my heart and soul into, and it remains to be one of the nicest places for me to just chill and hang out in this world. I call it my little autumn corner, and it really does have that autumn vibe. At least for me. We have these custom golden birch trees. If you have birch trees in your local environment, you'll know that a lot of them do go golden during autumn time, so trying to recreate that when we don't have golden leaves was a little bit tricky. I think I did a fairly good job. These especially look really good from afar and at night time, so as soon as it turns dark I will show you that. But before that, we have some time to kill, and I'm quite proud of the little bit of texturing and detailing done around this section of land as well. We have pumpkins, firefly bushes, wheat, mangrove roots. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on here, and I'm a big fan. And this little autumn forest hides a nice big hobbit hole. And yes, I did just finish watching, rewatching Lord of the Rings when I built this. But if we take a little look in here, this is actually a trading hall for my villagers, farmer villagers to be exact. And it's connected up to a pumpkin farm and also a melon farm. And there's also a secret passageway here, which we'll go down in just a second. But yeah, this giant hobbit hall, which, by the way, I put all the villagers down a block so they look shorter, like little hobbits, and I think it's so cute. I'm quite proud of this build. It's functional and it's cute, and it connects to a farm, and this little hobbit hole door, the round circle and the canopy going around the hut. I think it really pulls everything in this area together. I'm a massive fan. So this is my pumpkin farm, if you couldn't tell. That's where the hobbit hole connects to, and where all the pumpkins from the pumpkin farm go into. Now this was a very difficult build because I'm not so good at building circles in Minecraft. And a giant pumpkin is all about the circles in it, so if you actually look from above you can tell that it's not quite perfect and it's a little bit skewed. And I just call that realism because real pumpkins don't grow perfect either, so it's fine. It's got a little tinier pumpkin next to it here, which is just another hut to spend the night. This one's not had an interior done, but you can sleep the night away there, and that's really all that matters. And inside the pumpkin farm here, there's two giant farms. We have a giant pumpkin farm, and we have upstairs a melon farm, which appears to be broken at the moment. But trust me, most of the time this thing works and provides me with more than enough pumpkins and melons to do some trading. And I just want to talk about the path here as well, because I think it deserves a little bit of attention. If I go up a little bit higher so we have a nice view here, this was when I really started enjoying making my paths a gradient. So we go from this kind of path block color to the browns, to these browns, and then I had this issue where I needed to blend it in with the deep slate I've used over here, and I'm pretty proud of this transition from all the sort of different shades of brown all the way to deep slate. It's not perfect, but I think it does kind of fit the vibe of a well-traveled road almost, so I'm a big fan. And similarly here we had to transition the other way out, so from that deep slate onto mud and soil and stuff, all the way into the browns of the dripstone and the mushroom blocks I used over there. And yeah, just a big fan of how these paths connect. I think it feels very natural as you walk them, and I still think it looks fairly satisfying as you fly above them as well. And then following down the path, we have this beautiful view that really opens up here into these ruins. Now these are my creaking ruins. They have a creaking farm, and it just so happens the sun's about to go down, which is perfect. And next to the creaking ruins, we have a haunted mansion. Now these two builds both have a purpose. The farm is, well, a farm. And the haunted mansion actually contains our reject villagers. So when I was building the Hobbit Hall, I had a whole bunch of villagers that did not quite fit the criteria of the trades they needed to have. And so I thought it'd be fun to build a place where they can go. They're not completely useless, you know, and they just sort of hang out in this haunted mansion to be terrified for eternity. I just finished the haunted mansion, to be honest. There's a lot more I was going to do with the place, and obviously the outside is not done. We have some torch spam and everything, but this place really does look gorgeous at nighttime. Oh yeah, look at that view. Look at that view. I'm a big fan. And because it's turning night, I can actually show you the farm in action as well. Now, it's not perfect. It used to work a lot better, and then something happened. I don't know what, but creaking started spawning where they're not really meant to spawn. Turns out it's quite hard to spawn proof these guys, but there is an off switch somewhere I've hit, which I completely forgot about where I've put it. In here. So if I turn that on, that should hopefully work. And yep, creakings are spawning, hopefully mostly in the right area. If I come down here, there's a whole bunch of them here, and if I hit them, you'll see that, well, it's kind of hard to tell, but creaking thingies happen there. The resin, that's it, the resin forms over there, and on a timer they get pushed off there as well. So I can sit here and hit these guys every nighttime if I need to get a little bit of resin, which I have tried to use in builds, so it's not completely useless. And it's always nice to have a bright orange block. And yeah, a creepy little resin farm. Now, are we safe here? This place is mostly spawn proof. That's what these pale moss carpets are for. They're to stop the creaking spawning in random places. If I turn this off, I think the creaking should... No, they kind of stay active until daytime, to be honest. There's no really easy way, I think, to fix that. They just sort of stay active. But there's a little tower here as well we can go up to, which just looks a little bit different, breaks up the shape of the build. You do have to kind of break your way through, but then we have a top-down view of the farm over here as well, and a fairly good view of the autumn forest at nighttime as well. It's actually got hidden lights in the trees, so it looks fairly good even up close. Look at that. Gorgeous. I love this place so much. I love it so much. My voice just cracked there. Ignore that. Fireflies kicking in. Oh, I'm just actually so excited for autumn, so I get to keep working on this section. There's so many builds I can do over here. And speaking of autumn and big builds and stuff, I don't know, that was a really bad transition, but we sort of continue that theme of the pumpkin here with a giant mushroom build and a giant nether portal. These are mostly for aesthetics. I do use the portal sometimes, but to be honest, it just links up from the other side to my main location, so I can't really use it back and forth. A little bit too close for that to work, but we do use the resin blocks over there for flowers. And we have this little we have this little mushroom, which doesn't have anything inside. I don't know what to put there, but it's kind of cute, and I use this as part of my 30-day build challenge I was doing at the time. So I just needed to build something that day, and this is what I came up with. Same with the portal, I just need to build something that day. It's not perfect. This whole area needs a lot of work, but I think if I go with the theme of giant Minecraft objects, I think I can make it work with some custom trees and more giant mushrooms and everything. And yeah, this autumn is going to be really exciting for that. I love this whole section of the base. And now let's look at the haunted mansion. It contains even more custom trees, and I'm quite proud of these ones. I'm quite proud of the whole haunted mansion. It was really a step away from my normal building style, both with terraforming the landscape with very little greenery. Look, I love a leaf spam, and this doesn't have any. I don't know if you noticed. I love leaf spam so much. Leaves everywhere. And then I just had to build something that looks kind of not leafy. So this was the best I could do. But I'm a big fan of this build. We have some custom trees here that are meant to look like kind of pines of some sort. This ones that I've seen better days, definitely. And if we go inside of the build here, it's going to be fairly dark, but don't worry, it's mold proof. And If you watched last episode, I had a table in here. I removed it. I really don't like it. But it's our little creepy interior. Now, the Haunted Mansion is meant to look quite spooky. We have some glasswork over here, which I know is like invisible on YouTube because of how dark everything gets. So I'll hold a torch out here for you so you can see it a little bit better. We have some skulk blocks and a lot of glass to kind of make this corner look really dark, especially in comparison to that library corner over there. This whole place is meant to feel a little bit uneasy and weird, and well, it's a haunted mansion, right? Now, there's no actual creakings in here, but we do have some reject villagers. Not in this bedroom, apparently. Are they still alive? Aha. He's having the time of his life sleeping in this skulk-infested room with skull paintings. And this whole place is meant to feel a little bit not fun. Not fun is a good way to put it. This whole build is meant to be creepy and spooky, and there's a lack of grass living on this land, and the outside's not quite finished, but I do think it really brings something to the base I had never built before. There's a little kitchen area through here, which has definitely not suspicious red marks on the floor. And not suspicious skulk everywhere. No. And if we go down here to the unfinished, of course, clock tower, there is a little bell up here I want to show you guys because I'm quite proud of this. I can make it out. Another lovely view, and you get to see some of the detail on the roof here as well. And the little bell tower, clock/bell tower. It was meant to be a clock tower. It's not a bell tower, but I think it's a nice shape of a build, to be honest. This was a really tricky build for me. This was a lot of experimenting and trial and going back and forth, but I'm really proud of this build. This whole thing took me like 3 episodes. You guys have no idea. This was a commitment and a half, but if you haven't seen the series before, I am basically a survival only builder, at least when it comes to this world. I don't really pre-plan anything in creative, so yeah, a lot of trial and error to get this whole style going. But I'm quite proud of it. I do like this sort of brown look to the floor as well. We have some mango roots and the leaf litter to really spice the floor up, but I think it works. And a lot of candles for creepy lights that prevent mob spawns but don't light everything up too much. Now, you notice there's a bit of an unfinished section here, and there's more builds to be coming over here between the haunted mansion and the rest of the base. But I did build this bridge recently, so I thought I'd mention it. I did a whole bunch of terraforming over here to create this sort of rocky cliffside almost. It's not quite cliffside. What do you call it? Land meets ICC rocky transition area. And I had a lot of fun with different blocks over here as well. I used some nether brick and cherry wood, and I think it works quite well. And I wanted to show you at nighttime because it's got a little bit of that same creepy vibe with the eye blossoms. What are they called? Spooky blossoms. Spooky blossoms is what I'm going to call them for just now. Here's another angle. As you can see, I did a little bit of terraforming here, but we're going to have to transition that coastline, that's the word. We're going to have to transition that coastline a little bit further, but I learned to enjoy building with coral over here, and I've kept that same kind of feel over here, like a dead coral. Looks great on rocks, really does. If we follow this path along, this was also a new path for me when I did the terraforming on the coastline here. A little wheat field, and then this takes us back to my main area, which has been here for ages. But if we then go back into the city, we have one new big build here that I definitely want to show off, and that is the Happy Ghast Home. Happy Ghast Home, yes, that's what it's called. I completely forgot what I called it. This is where I park my Happy Ghast, and this was really fun because I had to build something that feels familiar to this Magician's Tower, but sort of modernize it, and it kind of shows a transition between my building style, I guess, and also how much I've improved throughout the series. These are two very similar but completely different builds that are meant to do different things and have different vibes, but yeah, they kind of use similar materials and color palettes and gradients and all of that jazz. So yeah, big fan of this Happy Ghast home. It is mostly functional. Turns out it doesn't quite fit the Happy Ghast inside the holes I've made over here. You know what? I don't know why they can't fit through this. It's probably the chain. Thinking about it. But yeah, you can just sort of go down the ladders to get up even if you don't have an elytra. I only got one Happy Ghast, but if I need to, there's quite a few I can park up in here in the Happy Ghast home. Now, directly opposite the Happy Ghast home is another new build, a fairly recent one, and this is the archery range for me to, well, shoot my bow at these things. This is mostly functional, so if I land a shot, which I did not, there you go, the lights turn on, which is fairly fun, just in case I couldn't tell by the flaming arrows in the target block. And then if I shoot the last block twice, yeah, it's not perfect redstone. And I'm also not a good shot apparently, but it's all hooked up. And I don't know, it felt like an area I needed, because the plan behind this castle city is to have places to put my villagers in. So they're, instead of having one big trading hall with all the villagers, they're really split up in a lot of different sections to kind of give the place a little bit more life. And so this is the Fletcher's cottage. This is where my Fletcher villagers live. I've not actually needed to trade with these guys, but I had a lot of fun building the sort of place I think a Fletcher would live in. And they have a little attic, they have a workspace here with their very useful fletching tables. They have a little cupboard that goes into the redstone, just in case, you know, they need to touch the redstone. And they have some chickens they're raising for feathers. I don't know, this is a really cute house. I wanted to build something with a moss roof, and I think it works. It looks very different from the other builds in the area, but it still fits because of its green roof. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the Fletcher's cottage. And then we have the stonemasons, which also are my villagers. These guys are locked in. They're not to be trusted, and I had to move them in, so they're, you know, being honest and open here. This build, I completely forgot about it. This is clearly not finished, but this is where my masons live. These guys did get traded with, so they're all healed up and everything. Healed up, zombified, and then healed up. Cured, that's the word. And there's a space up here as well that I've not filled out. So if you have any ideas of what I should put in here, let me know. But I am a big fan of this build because I love these roofs. You know, I went for the sort of terraced feel that you might see in these kind of medieval, I guess, buildings. Terraced houses, good for heating and stuff. But to keep it more interesting, I went for a resin and a nether brick roof. And I think it's a lot of fun, mostly because it matches the library I built. This library is an older build, so it's an episode 50 tour, but, you know, I had these oranges and reds I hadn't really used much elsewhere in the town. So I brought them over here, and I think it's a really fun build. And it creates this little alleyway on both the top floor and this ground floor over here. Now, on this ground floor, aside from leading back into the Fletcher's cottage and also this little quarry, made-up quarry, it's not really real, leads to a cave. But this little made-up quarry, it also leads to the barracks, which is a fun build because I went for something that felt like it was a little bit more military. It's got very rigid corners to it, like tiny little windows, and I don't know, I think it feels different. You know, this is a residential home, and you can kind of tell that this is not. This build's got a different purpose. We brought in a lot more stone that I normally use in this place as well to kind of differentiate it. They're in this little alleyway with a cute little path. I always thought there's no snow on this. Yeah, these copper lamps or copper bulbs rather, they put in a lot of work to keep the snow from forming on this path so I can actually enjoy it. If we go in here, we have our nether portal connected from the other side of the city wall. Yes, the barracks go right through this big wall we have around the city. They're really connected up, and so I needed a place to be able to get to the portal without flying outside of the wall, and this really works. We have a little bit of a story here with the portal. If you look at it, maybe you can tell me what the story is, but basically, magic. Basically magic. If we go up here, we have a little sleeping quarters area with a whole bunch of bunk beds. It feels a little bit cramped. It feels like there is, well, not much space to move in here, but I think when you imagine a barracks and where like military staff would sleep or sort of town guard or something, this feels like the right place. And up here we have a little office, which, you know, you sit here, you look out there towards the other side of the city wall. I don't know, it's kind of cute. We can take the ladder up to the top as well as a little lookout point. You can see a lot of things from here. Not really, actually. These quartz slabs kind of get in the way, but you can see the stone sword. Yeah, you can see the stone sword from basically everywhere. Very cool. Well, would you believe or not, that's most of the builds actually we did in the last 25 episodes. Some of the builds took a couple episodes, and we also had a few episodes of just doing tidy work and stuff around the base. But there's a couple things I did add I wanted to show, because I think these were either done during the 30-day building challenge, or I just sort of did them off camera at some point. We have this new path that leads our spawn. This is where we spawn if we ever don't have our bed set. And it's a nice little gradient path that I was really enjoying doing at the time, that leads by our wheat farm, and it's kind of got this pale oak path leading into the beach. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I'm almost conflicted about how I feel about this area. Does it really fit with everything else? Not really, but it does feel kind of cool to walk through it, and different is not necessarily bad. Then we go into this little beach area. I have a cherry blossom section here because I really wanted to build something out of cherry blossoms. So if you stand here, you can not really see the sword. But it's meant to be like a little, almost like a park, I think is the best way to put it. A little park where you can just, you know, sit on this bench here and enjoy your lamp who's blocking the sword. It's maybe not the most thought out place, but I had a lot of fun building a cherry blossom bridge. And you know, a pink area in your base is kind of a necessity, isn't it? So this is where I put mine. Now if we follow this path along the wool farm, it leads to probably our last big build of the world tour, and this is our cactus farm, which is a really cool build. Let me show you it. It's got like a little waterfall and everything. Like, how cute is that? I always think it's like a little bit of a lizard or something because of those eyes and stuff. It's really, really cute. I love this place. And yeah, again, we built with more bamboo and mangrove. And if we go in here, there is basically nothing in here. It's really hard to tell. But this is my cactus flower farm. I had to come up with the redstone for this all on my own because, well, I do all my farms on my own in this world, and this was a really difficult farm to actually build. I'd love to explain the redstone, but basically there's a whole bunch of timers here, a dropper clock timer and a hopper clock timer. That's what that's clocks are that. That activates a whole bunch of pistons all at once. There's a lot of lines, it does a lot of stuff. I'm genuinely not too sure how I came up with this. I'd love to go and say it's quite simple actually, and it really is, but for the sake of the tour, watch the episode to know more about the farm. And if we go here down this little secret door, you can see that we have a steady supply of cactus and cactus flowers from this farm, which are always really useful blocks, and apparently some zombie flesh as well. So clearly a zombie fell in and died in here at some point. So this build kind of exists to hide the farm. There's not much of interior on it. It goes into the side of the cliff here, or this hillside rather. And it's got some holes through here as well, which probably is how the zombies got in. The world is very finished. But yeah, your little build has got a tower just to break up the roof of it. And yeah, this is basically it. There's a couple of decorations here, like I added this little traveling merchant. Remember the flower boat? Well, this is the guy that set up its stall. It's got a couple of horses here. Oh, I was going to say the other one's gone, but no, it's sitting in a weird spot. But this guy sells flowers. Not really, he's just a farmer, but we pretend he sells flowers. And then I guess one last thing to show you guys is the updated maps. I do have a map room in here. We go through the castle and then down this way. This is the ballroom. I just want to show you it. You've seen it on the world tour, but I'll show it again because I love this build. We go up this way here. There are castle kitchens and beds I forgot to clean up. You guys don't get to sleep anymore because this world tour. Come on, clean up, guys. You know, clean up. If we go in here to our map room, I did actually not forget, and I did actually map out our episode 75. Now that you've seen all the builds, you can actually see how much this has changed. We'll take a look at episode 25. The very first maps we did. This is our starter home right over here. This is our island. There wasn't much here aside from the Magician's Tower as the start of the castle town. And then episode 50 to episode 55, because I don't remember which episode I made these maps in. You get to start to see the pumpkin and stuff, but there is, well, and the cherry blossom square. I think this was done after episode 50 because I forgot. That's why there's a couple of builds here I've showed off, but it's mostly the older stuff. You can see how we built a whole plaza and a castle and everything. And now, episode 75, I didn't think there was going to be a massive difference, but actually you can really see how this section filled out. And there's obviously the new bridge and everything here that gets cut off in the map, and the sword doesn't get shown on the map. It's not a massive difference, but you can tell I've been busy and even more stuff has popped up on the map. And I think we need to get a closer look here actually. I'll just stand here so you guys can take a look for a second. Or, you know, pause the video. I suppose that's totally valid as well. Yeah, pause the video. And in our map room we have loads of space for other maps, so I guess I'm going to need to label this, what, episode 100? That's our next goal. We'll do probably not more work on the castle though, to be honest, because my next project coming soon, I'm so excited for this to get started on it, is going to be working on our nether hub. If I didn't go into the nether for today's episodes, that is on purpose. It looks horrendous in there. There's nothing there. It's not changed since episode 50. It's not really changed since like episode 10. Our nether is the worst. So it's time to really buckle down and work on that, and I have a really cool theme for it. But you're gonna have to wait until next episode when I get into that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tour. I hope you guys like catching up and remembering these old builds if you've seen them all before. Perhaps we've not built the most amount of builds in the last 25 episodes, but I think we built some really iconic ones, like the tower. I think the barn is fairly iconic, and obviously the haunted mansion, and obviously the giant pumpkin. How can I forget the giant pumpkin? It might have not been too many builds, but we did build a lot of really cool things, and obviously we got our elytra as well, which was a big step in the world. Episode 15 elytra. Now I'm happy to say that for my episode 100, not only are we going to have another complete world tour covering everything, but I also want to do a world download. And I also, maybe not exactly on the world tour, but for episode 100, we're going to fight another big boss. We're going to fight the Wither. I've never fought the Wither on my own, but we're going to need a beacon at some point, right? So we got wings for episode 50. We're going to get a beacon for episode 100. The definition of not rushing and taking it slow, because after all, we've got forever in the forever world. That was kind of really cheesy. That was so cheesy. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tour, and hope you have a very lovely day. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.